are sitting here with the corpses of our troops still stuck in the DRC.
Make no mistake, this conflict is about politics and money.
We are going on a combat mission with no equipment.
South Africa's soldiers have been sent to die in a war that is not ours in order to safeguard the financial interests of the ANC. And
If these were your children, will you send them to DRC?
Boom, guys, this video, I think this video would actually really explode all of the internet space in South Africa, because these two speeches by Powell Maimane and DS Powell actually in the parliament really actually expose a lot of issues, a lot of things that are actually wrong with this whole case of sending South Africa's defense forces to the DRC to help fight hand in hand with the armed forces of the DRC against M23 rebels. And I think it's been argued Paul Kagame's troops that are actually also in Goma. It has resulted to the death of 14, I think, South African Defense Forces troops, and also South African Defense Forces are trapped, so to speak, right now in the DRC and surrounded, especially if you listen to Ronald Lamola. He argues that they are surrounded by troops that are actually not government-backed. They are not even identifiable, and so it's even really risky to go in there now and pull them out, because pulling them out or asking them to withdraw actually means an ambush, because they'll be getting into the hands of these rebels that, you know, might end up probably ambushing all of them right now. And so Powell and Powell Maimane here actually just exploded in the parliament here. You could hear the speeches, the energy that Powell Maimane brings into this whole debate, because this was an emergency debate that was called, I think, by the DA to actually listen to the parliamentarians on what to do, what should actually be done to these South African defense forces who are trapped. While some members actually think that, you know, South Africa's defense, South Africa's military is at the moment really weak and not capable enough of really keeping peace in the DRC. Some other you know, members actually think that, especially most ANC members, I think if you listen to Ronald Lamola's speech there, he actually thinks that South Africa, you know, should continue to maintain the peacekeeping effort that was actually mandated in the vision of the ANC from 1994 to actually help in silencing the guns on the continent and all of that. But, you know, there are many arguments that the defense forces is really weak, and Powell here in this video, really powerful speech he gives. Many times I actually usually enjoy listening to her, because she has this really calm accent that actually makes me wonder, you know, it's so calm, and the way she argues, I don't know, it really interests me. So she actually exposes, and I really hope that if the secrets, she actually leaks some secrets in parliament. You know, I know there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation here and there today, but, you know, this is in parliament. She's boldly exposing a lot of secrets that, you know, she actually argues and speaks about mining rights of some ANC members or some members of the ANC in the DRC, and that, you know, the members of the military in the South African Defense Forces were sent to the DRC to protect those interests, and not necessarily a peacekeeping mission with MONUSCO. I mean, these are mind-blowing, you know, mind-blowing revelations that, if they are really true, because I really don't know if they are true. I'm not saying they are true, but this is actually a member of parliament and the DA actually exposing these things, you know, in parliament. Powell Maimane is also really energetic, asking the parliamentarians if they would send their children to such a hotbed to die, so to speak. He argues that they were sent on a mission without equipment, without, you know, equipment, that's Powell Maimane's words, to just go there and die with a much more ideologically fervent, you know, well-backed, especially militarily in terms of weapons, M23 rebels. And so you see the M23 rebels, they've actually captured Goma, which is that city. And they're actually arguing that their mission is to go to Kinshasa, in other words, to kind of like effectuate what might actually become a coup, so to speak. And the FDLR in Kinshasa actually said that so there's a war brewing if care is not taken. I know the SADC ministers have actually met yesterday, I think over the weekend, and argued that, you know, this whole thing should be solved within the next 5 or 6 days thereabout. But, you know, what to do with the South African Defense Forces, that's what Powell Maimane and Powell here are thundering, exploding really with anger, you know, in the parliament. Parliament, you can see the passion, you know, especially with Emma Powell arguing and exposing the ANC members and what, you know, actually the way they have actually managed the budget of the military and really caused South Africa's defense forces to become what it is today. It feels like, especially the words of Rob Hersov. I've been making a video on that. Rob Hersov says that South African police force is a joke, and he says that the South African defense forces are not capable of even carrying a military coup because of how weak these institutions have become. Let's quickly listen to Maimane and Emma Powell actually expose some really, if they are true, then I think that these allegations and these things that are actually been exposed here in Parliament is not good. Let's listen to Maimane and Emma Powell and share your thoughts in the comments.
The Honourable Maimane.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, members of this House, to the leadership of the Defence Force that is here, Bagaetsho dumelang. Let me begin by asking the fundamental question in saying, gore, ga ne le bana ba rona, a ne re ka kgona go nna bo botlhe mo ntlong ye, re ba re a ba ye ko ntweng, ko DRC, ba sena ditlhobolo, ba sena thuso, ba ile go swela fale. Honourable members, I want to send my deep condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones. It is often said that soldiers die in fields they have not chosen. The leadership of this House chose that field to be the Eastern DRC. And ultimately, the question will continue to haunt us. If these were our children, would we send them? I want to highlight a few things. The distortion of facts is simply this, that we are going on a peacekeeping mission. No, we are not. We are going on a combat mission with no equipment, with no supplies, and our young people are being killed there. Furthermore, fellow South Africans, I want to say a few things that must happen, and I want to be unequivocal. Let us bring back our troops back home. They have no business there. It's getting worse by the day. People are dying. More people are being displaced, yet we keep thinking we can come here by tinkering with the budget and send more troops. It is not going to result in peace. The second issue is that the financial sustainability of this war is not there. Under Operation Tiba and Operation Vigela, we took money from social development, sending troops to Mozambique and other places, and said, let's send our troops there. What we are in fact saying is that while we go to the DRC, for the South African child, there will be no more teachers, no more social development. We simply don't have the fiscal wiggle room to send troops to the DRC. Thirdly, we are sitting here with the corpses of our troops still stuck in the DRC. If we are serious in honoring their lives, we should take every effort to bring back our troops home. It is an immediate call, fellow South Africans. And ultimately, I want to urge that our leadership role must be one to find a peaceful mediation. Let us call for a dialogue between M23 and Tshisekedi so that we can find a response there. Let's ensure that Rwanda withdraws its troops from DRC. And let's compel Rwanda's government to dismantle the FDLR. It's the only way we are going to find. Lastly, this parliament must commission inquiry to ensure that we find out how many have died, what the financial implications are, and how quickly do we end this circus that is taking place. We are not silencing the guns, we are increasing violence. And therefore, honorable members, I leave you with this question. If these were your children, will you send them to DRC? Thank you.
The Honourable Powell.
Madam Deputy Speaker, let me begin by extending my deepest condolences to the families of our brave soldiers who have lost their lives in this terrible war. Honourable members, the situation in the Eastern DRC is dire. Nearly 3,000 civilians have been slaughtered by M23's recent advance into Goma. 500,000 people have been displaced, adding to the 2 million already fled. Just last week, 150 female inmates were raped and burned to death in the Goma jailbreak. In total, this conflict has claimed an estimated 5 million lives after the last 3 decades. The truth is that South Africa is in no position to take on the role of a peacemaker or a mediator. Neither is the SADC, which, like ANC government leaders, has repeatedly failed to uphold even basic democratic principles, rubber-stamping rigged elections in Zimbabwe and Mozambique, and most likely the DRC itself. This is aside from the multi-cycle budget cuts that have hollowed out our defence force, rendering our troops immobilized. Our base in the DRC struggles with critical shortages of medicine, food and ammunition. Roval helicopters are unavailable. All but one of our 26 Griffins sit idle. This abomination cannot continue. Make no mistake, this conflict is about politics and money. M23's advances are not ideological. They are designed to consolidate control over critical mineral resources and supply lines to Rwanda. The United Nations reported in December that the M23 generated $800,000 in taxes on mineral trades each month. These armed militia are now able to tax the 40 tons of goods that move through Minova Bay daily. Despite the tragedy unfolding, it was a grave miscalculation for our government to have involved South Africa in this intractable conflict. President Ramaphosa has claimed that as a country, we have a duty to support the nations that helped secure our liberation. This is a ruse. South Africa's soldiers have been sent to die in a war that is not ours in order to safeguard the financial interests of the ANC and their benefactors. SANDF's deployment to the DRC is perhaps tied to the commercial and mining interests of the very men who, working with ex-President David Mabuza, helped to secure the Honourable Cyril Ramaphosa's ascension to the ANC presidency in 2017. Executive chairperson of the Guma Group and founder of Gajima, Robert Gumedi's ties to the ANC are no secret, having provided millions in election funding. Guma has acquired a number of prospecting rights for oil and gas in the Great Lakes region, whilst their mining concessions in the DRC are public knowledge. Gumedi's company interests specifically target mineral resources in the North Kivu province. The ANC's willingness to compromise our national sovereignty for political and financial gain is not just limited to mining interests, but it extends to the infrastructure of our nation. Huawei's partnership with Gumedi's Gajima, which, working with China, helped to consolidate government's ICT infrastructure into a single cybercloud, paints a murky picture of intersecting interests driven by corporate greed and political ambition. The same corruption that has infected our government has now dragged our soldiers into a foreign war. Mining rights and political interests coincide at the intersection of our soldiers' dead bodies, and our country needs to be talking about this and loudly. Questions must also be asked about the Grand Enga Dam project. South Africa must now urgently demand SANDF's withdrawal. Recognizing the role that Rwanda has played in destabilizing the Great Lakes region, we must unite in calling for the sanctioning of Rwandan political and military figures who have enabled this illegal advance into sovereign territory in the DRC. This House must join in international calls for an embargo on illegally mined minerals that are exported from the region. We must demand the full implementation of the Luanda-Nairobi peace process mediated by credible political leaders whose political campaigns are not funded by mining magnates with direct financial interests in the region. The lives of our soldiers can no longer be traded for the profits of the ANC's elite. I thank you.
Honourable